Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I wanted to talk about what's going to happen next in astrology, starting with May 2020, but also really in the next 18 months probably, because we have the nodes shifting from Cancer and Capricorn into Sagittarius and Gemini. And that's really significant. And interestingly enough, I filmed a video in November last year when I was in Spain traveling, talking about the nodes shifting into Gemini and Sagittarius, and how I really hope that, the South Node being in Sagittarius, that this doesn't indicate that we won't travel anymore, right? And now we are here, April 2020, starting May 2020, and we're not allowed to travel. And who would have thought? And I wanted to give a little prediction or an overview about what this nodal shift really means for us, how we can navigate that, and how we can move forward and how we can integrate the lesson of the nodes shifting. Because every time the nodes shift, the collective nodes, it's the moon's node, so it's really, really tied to our own ego structure, because the moon represents our security, safety, ego structure, right? The things that are familiar to us. And it's really important to see how that shifts the collective and the collective ego structure, because it's the collective node, right? Everyone has their own nodal position in their natal chart, so your own moon's nodes, right? But collectively the nodes transit, and these transits always help us to grow and evolve, because in the end of the day, all of these transits are just energies in the sky that trigger certain things to happen, right? Certain themes to come up for us, certain things in our psyche to pop up, so we can evolve and grow and learn and really see the challenges that we have and that we really signed up for. And with the nodes shifting into Gemini, it's really interesting because it makes us more open-minded, right? It makes us curious about something new, about learning more, about collecting data, really researching all of these things, diving deep into new territories almost. And obviously then there's the question, what is the South Node really about? South Node in Sag is the truth, right? What is your truth? It's belief systems, it's preaching and teaching and exploring the world. And right now we are definitely not in a position where we can travel the world anymore. I'm not saying that this will be the case for the next 18 months. I hope not, because I have a Sag North Node and I am a Sag rising, so I love to travel, and my plans definitely included traveling in 2022. But we have to change plans, and then we have to see the opportunity that comes up with situations like that, because every time a challenge arises, I really encourage you to ask why. Like, what is the purpose? What is the intention behind that, right? Why am I restricted right now to do the thing that I actually wanted to do? And can I actually, investigate if the things that I had planned for myself are maybe not that much in alignment with my actual purpose, and that's why the universe is almost like protecting me from going forward, or I have to integrate something first before I can move forward. So maybe it's actually something that benefits your growth, even when in the moment right now it seems like a restriction. So that's definitely really important to know, because sometimes we are just not ready, and we have to learn and integrate some lessons or shed some layers before we are actually ready for that new, almost like frequency that you are about to step in, right? And I see that collectively for us happening right now, where we were ready, or we were not ready. We were aiming for a free world, right? Where we have more freedom, where we don't have restrictions, all of these things. But before that can happen, we have to see what beliefs we have to shed, right? What beliefs we need to erase out of our mind, or we really have to let go of, right? And that speaks for the South Node being Sagittarius. It's really the invitation to investigate and really reconsider our own belief systems, right? And there is a bell ringing right here, the church, because it's so true, right? And that includes, for example, religious beliefs. It also includes everything basically we signed up for, everything we agreed to, because ultimately we have to see that all the constructs and how your life is set up, it's just set up that way because you agreed to it. You believed that this is the only truth. For example, the concept of borders. It's just possible for us to have borders, right, and restrictions relative to borders, because collectively we agreed to that. And the same is true for money, right? the money system as we have it is only there and set up like that and constructed like that because collectively we said yes, we believe that this is the only way, or we believe that this is the way to go, right? We collectively agreed to that. And now is the time to really, when we are at home, right, we really have the time to dig deep inside of us and to dig deeper and deeper and deeper and really ask ourselves in every single aspect of your life, is this something you still want to agree to? Or is there something else, right? Is there a new way? Can I see this with, you know, from two sides, right? That's Gemini, right? Can I see it from multiple perspectives? Are there even more perspectives than this only perspective that I have been born into, right? That I have been raised to believe, right? Because so many times, and I've actually said that to a client recently, so many times we just don't see that there's an alternative way because we don't know what we don't know, right? We've just learned one specific way and we saw people modeling that to us as well, like if it's our parents or whatever it is. So we actually don't even know that there's an alternative, right? And that's when the Gemini mind comes into play, where we really have to investigate and ask if there is another way, if there is another option, and if there is not another option, then hey, we tap into the Aquarian mind and be like, maybe I can invent something, right? Maybe I can come up with a new solution. Maybe I can reinvent something. And again, all of that can only take place if we are not so distracted from or by the outside world, right? And that's why I think it's amazing that the universe put us in the position where we are in a safe place, in a safe environment, where we can't float around and travel and absorb all of these energies of other people and of other places. No, we are right now in our own energy. We have the capacity to really, really see and discover what our own energy feels like, right? Why? Because now we see, you know, you can even see that with the virus. We see how we absorb things from other people without even realizing that. And we've lived like that for forever, probably, you know, ever since we were born, because we are so afraid of being alone. We are so afraid of being in isolation. Now we see, well, it's actually not that bad, right? It's actually not that awful. Obviously, it's not familiar at first, so we have to get used to that, but that's fine. And then we get used to it, and it's a new habit, and then you realize that you come into your own energy. And then you realize that maybe all of a sudden your interest changes or something else changes because you've lived in someone else's energy maybe. And that's why I love, for example, human design. It really explains where you're receptive to other people's energies, right? Where you absorb them and amplify them. And sometimes if you're not aware of that, it feels like it's your own. But now we are in a position where we can come back into our own energy. And while we do that, at the very same time, we can ask ourselves, well, the way I lived my life, is this really what I want to do? Or am I just living out other people's truth and other people's truth that they have really like made me believe and think, and that this is the only way, right? And then there's the question, is there another way? And it's totally fine to say, hey, I ask myself the question and I come to the conclusion that for me, there is no other way. And that's perfectly fine. For example, if you love the concept of money as you have it and you really, really investigate if that's your ultimate truth, and you come up, you know, you come to the realization, yes, this is my ultimate truth, and that's fine. But the thing is that we have to ask ourselves first before we accept something, before we agree to something, right? And in any given moment, you can also change your truth. You know, it's not set in stone. You change and evolve every single day. And that's another thing. I'm really fascinated by the concept of different frequencies, different vibrations, and that started last year in August when I was really asking myself, could it be true that every single day you wake up in a new parallel reality, and it's just about, you know, what you learned the day before, right? That obviously already changes you and it already shifts you into another frequency. And based upon what you learn and how you evolve on a day-to-day basis, and you integrate that at night. And who knows where we are at night, right? When our consciousness is really not focused on this reality, but really focused on other realities, but we don't really perceive that because we chose, right? We chose to think that this is the only the only reality. So we chose to believe that, and that's another question that I would have for you. Do you really believe that, or do you open yourself up to the possibility that there is another reality happening at the very same moment. So there is a different you or the same you in a different reality at the same moment, and then you can choose to perceive that, or you chose to, you know, agree to the fact that this is the only reality I want to focus on. Now that's fine, and this is your ultimate life, but maybe there's another life happening at the same time, and you can shift. And obviously for the human brain that's really hard to even conceptualize or think about, but I think it's, you know, when we can't go to the gym, then we can at least exercise our mind and really think about all of these things. And that's literally what I do on a daily basis, especially during this time. I'm just like really fascinated to think about all of these things. And I'm grateful, you know, even though, you know, there's 3 on my wrist and I have Jupiter on my other wrist, you know, I love traveling and I love to find my truth, but I also know, being a Sag rising and the opposite sign is Gemini, and that's where I come from, that's my default, that's also where my Mars is. I love to ask questions, because only if I ask questions and investigate, I can come up with my truth. Because being in that Sag energy can really, it can be easy to have one ultimate truth, and that's the truth for the rest of your life. But I think we have to be adaptable, right? We have to see that we can change our truth, we can change our belief systems, and we actually have to adapt, because we as a collective change as well, right? We as a collective adapt as well. So it's really important for us to not be stuck and to not hold on to one belief that we had or that we agreed to, or our parents or our ancestors agreed to hundreds of years ago, and they are so outdated. They don't work anymore in this reality, you know. 100 years ago, you didn't have social media. We were not at that state as we are right now. So it's really important that we adapt and that we then change, and then we also have to be open to change and not be fearful of change, right? And you can only open yourself up to change if you are secure within yourself, and that's why the universe is so intelligent, right? That we had the North Node in Cancer first, because we had to find inner security first, and the home within ourselves, which is the soul and the connection to the universe, right? Because only if we have that inside of us, we are open and safe enough to change, and to change drastically, right? A radical change can only happen if you have some sort of stability, because that's what the moon also represents in your birth chart and in general and in astrology. It gives you the security to drive through life, to drive literally from your South Node, which is your comfort zone, to your North Node, which is so outside of your comfort zone. You can only go into this risky field of the unknown, which is the North Node, if you have some sort of security, because this security is just an intrinsic need that we have. So I think it's genius that it comes after the North Node in Cancer, but again, it's not easy, because not everyone is at the same page yet. Not everyone has the security inside of themselves already, right? Because maybe they still agree to the fact that their security is dependent on other people, on the government, or whatever it is, and they just have to learn and realize that this is not the truth, so, or not their truth, or not our truth, basically. But we have 18 months to really investigate and ask ourselves, what is our truth? And that's basically how I see the next 18 months unfolding. And I definitely think that it will be harder to travel, and it will be harder to go places, but maybe also so we realize that we don't want this kind of restriction anymore. Who knows? I think new doors will open for us, but the key aspect of this transit is really to investigate every single area of your life, to ask yourself, is this the truth that I still want to hold on to, or do I want to change something, or do I want to invent a completely new way, right? Because Saturn is really ultimately moving in Aquarius then, and that gives us more Aquarian energy and more opportunities to structure Saturn, the world, the future, Aquarius, in a new way. And we need people who do that, who help us to see how we can do that, and maybe you are part of it, right? So that's just something that I wanted to give you to reflect on. Definitely let me know what you're thinking about, how you see this nodal transit as well. And I would also invite you, or like to invite you, to my new astrology school, because I decided in true Sag fashion to explain to you how I learned astrology, how I basically remembered astrology, because these archetypes are living inside of you. You have every single archetype inside of you, so it's just a matter of really finding the tool or the way to remember everything that is already inside of you, because each and every one of us, we can tap into collective knowing, right? And that's really Sag, it's really right brain, and we can do that by learning, right? By researching, by opening yourself up to the belief as well that you can just remember and then it's there. All of that, and I will basically give you my magic of how I learned astrology in the school. I have different levels. You can find all the details down below in the show notes or in the info box. If you would like to participate, I also do a live school, but if you can't attend live, don't worry. You can also have all of the things as a recording. You can just learn astrology with me from a really soul-centered evolutionary perspective, but also really with the foundation of what do these archetypes present, what sort of energy do they bring to us. Also, when it comes to transits, what energies are activated when we have certain transits, all the juicy stuff. I would love to see you there. I would love to connect with you there as well, connect to your way of understanding astrology, because I think that's also the magic of astrology. Everyone sees these archetypes in a different way and reinvents how we see them, and we need the foundation first so we can really come up with our own understanding, right? And then it comes back to, you know, remembering and what you know, maybe even from a past life, maybe you've been an astrologer, whatever it is. But I definitely see that we work with astrology in the future and we use it as a guiding tool, because that's how the universe is literally talking to you. It's a language, right? It's a language, and you either speak the language or you don't. And that's, again, something you agree to, something you want to believe in, but it's not about believing, it's just about agreeing. Because if it's your truth that astrology is working, or not agreeing, that's also fine. It's your choice. Everything in life is your choice, and you can choose to be on a magic side of life, or you can choose to not learn this language, and that's also fine. It's your choice, and depending on your choice, you shift into different frequencies in this universe, and that's the magic. And I would love to see you on the magic side. If you have any questions, you can find me on Instagram, DM me, just ask me, or send me an email. And without further ado, I'm excited to hear what you think about this video, about the nodal shift. If you're excited, if you are anxious, let me know in the comments below, and we will speak very soon. Step in your magic.